So yesterday we talked about ACT Aspire. That's the 9th grade test. So if you're not in 9th grade, you won't take the ACT Aspire, but odds are you're probably in 10th grade. I don't think I have any juniors or seniors this year, but I have in the past. So if you're in 10th grade right now, you'll take the ACT next year. And that's also attached to grade bumps. So regardless, this information is useful no matter what grade you are in right now. With the ACT Aspire, our state testing, we are giving you an incentive, a grade bump, if you meet a certain score. For the math test, it's 428. But you could also qualify if you score high enough on the English portion, on the science portion for like your English and science class. And that applies to both semesters. So I can say that like there's some kids that have before high school gotten like all A's, and then the adjustment to high school has been really hard. So maybe they ended up with like a B or a C. This could be your way to get that credit back. Like I do have some athletes, for example, that are retaking a class so that they could get a higher GPA. So they passed the class, but they're retaking it so that they could get a higher GPA so that they could qualify for certain scholarships. I can tell you that, like, for example, if you're an athlete, it is a lot easier to get an academic scholarship than it is an athletic scholarship, for one. But if you are an athlete and you have good grades, that kind of gives you a safety net, because you can always get cut from your college team. Like that's a reality. It happens every year. People get cut, they're not performing well, and then they lose their scholarship. If you have the grades though, then you're not stuck with that tuition. And I can tell you that when I was in high school, for example, my boyfriend was being looked at by like Duke baseball. And even though like we were in honors classes, even though he had A's and B's, he needed more A's than B's. So he was really trying to, you know, arrange his schedule so that he could get A's in all his classes. So that's something to consider. I know that might not be for all of you. For some of you, you just want to graduate. This could be your way too. If you failed both semesters, for example, instead of coming to summer school, instead of retaking a whole year and having like 2 math classes in 1 year, you can recover your credit this way. And I think that the test is really easy because it's not necessarily even on our 9th grade Arizona standards. Again, why they make us do this for our state testing, I don't know, but it's stuff that honestly would have been learned previously, and we will be spending a good amount of time reviewing it. So I'm not worried about it. Last year, my campus had the highest scores in the district. So, you know, last year I worked at Willow Canyon. You guys should be honestly doing better. And I'm here, so that should propel you guys that way. Last year, we only had 4 days of prep too. This time we have 2 weeks of prep, and I'm gonna do whatever I did last year plus more. So I have faith in you. Plus, the curriculum this year is really like problem solving based, right? That's like what a lot of these problems are on the test. So I'll kind of pick up where we left off yesterday. Recording right now, I'll put it in there really just for the people that are absent. Because if you're taking a test, like the fact that one test can determine like a grade bump, for example, when you take your ACT, the fact that that test alone could get you tens of thousands of dollars in scholarship money, that's crazy. So there are people that buy like workbooks to make sure that they're prepared for their ACT and SAT. There's people that, for their kids, they hire like a really expensive tutor to get them there. Right now, Shadow Ridge for the Saturday academies are having like ACT prep for free. So that's a really great opportunity. And I can tell you, I don't know, I talked about a whole bunch of different things yesterday with all my classes. So if I repeat myself, sorry. But after I spent, because senior year, you usually have to apply to college early. After I sent them my scores, they bumped up my scholarships. So it's crazy how one test is worth like that much money. So really great practice. All right, so just reminding you when we are testing, it is the real thing on April 4th and 5th. So on the 4th in the morning, you'll take all your ELA tests, and then they combine that score. And if you score high enough, then you can get a grade bump. On that Wednesday, you'll take your math test first and then your science test. So what I plan to do, and I said tomorrow that I would do it, but I may or may not change that. But what I plan to do is give you that test that we started looking at yesterday. I have a packet, kind of like the 50 papers you see, where there's 2 columns, one where you just put your answer, and then one where you justify your answer. Now, if you remember yesterday, there were all different like question types. So if you just go to Google and go to TestNav, you can also follow along. This will be the same setup of how you are testing on the 5th. All right, but if you remember, there was like a bunch of different question types. So if it's multiple choice, like this one, for example, that we, I think, did yesterday, again, all my classes are kind of mixed up, but you would put like your answer. So everyone see back here what the answer key will look like. Everyone see real quick. So there's 2 columns. So you would put your answer, maybe like some work shown. If you had to show like scratch work, you put it all in here too. This one doesn't require you to explain because it's multiple choice. But if you get this wrong, then on correction day, for every single one that you get wrong, I'm going to require you to give a justification. So the more that you get right the first time, the less work you have to do later on. So I don't want you to just treat it like how some of you treat your benchmarks, like they don't matter, when first of all they do, because I always put them in the grade book. But second of all, like they do matter. They're preparing you for this. All right, for example, this one, I would expect there to be something in the justification column for number 2. You probably don't need to show any scratch work for this one. It's not asking you to really calculate or solve anything. So for all the ones that are essay type questions or whatever, I will go and check and make sure that you have an answer. We'll see if it's right or not when we go over it. But tomorrow, all that I would be grading you on is, did you finish? Because should you ever leave a test blank? No, not a single question. Even if it's an essay question, do I leave it blank? No. That's why we really need to work on our time management skills. Those test strategies, doing all the ones you know how to do first, and then going back and maybe adding some more details, adding an example, something, but you shouldn't just have blanks on anything. So for tomorrow's score, if you have answers for everything and for the justification ones, you have justifications, then you'll get a perfect score, regardless if you're right or not. But remember, the more right you are, the less corrections you have to do. When we do the corrections, those will be assessment points. So any questions on that? All right. Some of them you can see are pretty easy. Some of them, so this is like an example of a drag and drop, right? So just make sure you put your answer clearly on your paper, which is which. Let's see, what was I saying? So that's what you'll do tomorrow. Today we will kind of just go over some basic things that I think a lot of people have forgotten. One of those things would be like symbols like this. What is it talking about for geometry and things like that? Because this isn't geometry, this is algebra. You take geometry next year. Let's see, again, all of these things that it's talking about. You might see problems that you just have no clue where to start. All right, but you can't just guess. I mean, we will go over every single one of these, but you can't just put, I don't know, and then turn in your test. Tomorrow you have to finish regardless if you know how to do it or not. All right, find a way. I think yesterday we talked in depth about the calculator, but I just want to remind you, this calculator is okay. It's not the best. So invest in your own calculator or check one out for free from the bookstore. Again, it's like your Chromebook. As long as you don't lose it and you return it, you won't get charged for checking one out from the bookstore. And the sooner you get it, the earlier you can start practicing with it. I want you to practice with the calculator you're actually going to use on test day. So if you're like, nope, Miss Medina, I would rather just use this one, then fine. But you need to practice with this one, not with Desmos, not with your phone, this one. All right. So that's our plan for tomorrow. You're actually going to take the test and you have to finish, even if you have to guess at the end. Let's see. Today we will do a Kahoot to kind of refresh our memory on some of those elementary school standards that will undoubtedly appear on this ACT Aspire test. Before I show you the Kahoot though, because there might be some questions that come up, I just want to show you in this week's folder, I try to sort the folders, like the colors, by units. So we have unit 5, unit 6, now we're on like ACT Aspire stuff. All right, but here I want to show you this conversion chart. That these are measurements that everyone should know. Does everyone know them? No, not even adults. Sometimes they even have to like look them up themselves. But a lot of these state assessments just assume that you know these. So they might like give you a word problem and tell you to figure something out, but then they don't give you one of these like unit conversions. So then that stinks, because even if you know how to solve the problem, you are stuck because you don't have this information. So take a look. I think length we are confident in, right? How many inches in a foot? How many feet in a yard? How many feet in a mile? Without looking. 5,280. So yeah, those are the things that they assume that you know, and it really stinks if it will be a problem and you don't know it. 1 pound is 16 ounces. 1 ton is 2,000 pounds, not 1,000 pounds, 2,000. Time, hopefully you know that one because we use time every single day. How many weeks are in a year?
48.
52 is correct. I don't think anyone actually said 52 weeks. I heard like 53. But 52 weeks is 1 year. So then say, I don't know, say we have a problem about interest. I doubt it because it's more like lower standards in my opinion, but say we have a problem about interest and it says that it's compounded weekly for a whole year. Then how many times was the interest applied? 52 times, because there's 52 weeks in a year. So like that's from the exponentials unit, like you probably knew that you needed to plug it in for the exponent, but if you don't know how many weeks are in a year, that's gonna stink. So that's why I'm showing you this, and feel free to look at it in Schoology in case you need a refresher. These ones on the right column are the ones that everyone forgets. So just take a little look. 1 cup is 8 fluid ounces. A pint is 2 cups. A quart is 2 pints. A gallon is 4 quarts. And I feel like some of these you could figure out based off of that, but those are like the main ones. So all of these, hopefully you should know. And this, some of these measurements are more like Americanized. In the rest of the world, they use like the metric system. So they might talk about like kilograms, kilometers, meters, milliliters. You wouldn't, and they might even have you convert those. Plus, if you plan to go into any sort of like STEM field, you need to know that. That's like all we use in college. So there's a mnemonic device that can help you with that. So King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. And hopefully it works in this hour. First hour was kind of hard to make it show up on my screen. Okay, so yeah, metric system. This is like what the rest of the world uses. And in some ways it's easier because if you have grams, for example, and give me like a random number, someone. Okay, I heard 20. Say we have 20 grams and we need to convert that to milligrams. Well, based on this mnemonic device, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, kilo, hecto, deca, base units, deci, centime, milli. I can figure it out. So base units are like meter, gram, or liter. It works with any of these. We're talking about grams right now. So if I'm going from grams to milligrams, what direction am I moving? To the left or to the right? To the right, because milligrams is over here. Going from here to here. What you do is you take the decimal wherever it is in the number. So where is the decimal right now?
Oh, behind the zero.
Oh, behind the zero. Okay, good. So then 20, if we're moving it to milli from the base units, we're moving it 1, 2, 3 times and to the right. So then move it 1, 2, 3 times. The decimal now goes here. Any like little loops you fill in with the zeros, those are like space users. And that's 20,000 billion. Right? Again, we use that a ton in college. So why we don't use it more in high school, I don't know. But now you have like a rundown on the metric system. Say we need to go from, let's do liters now. Say we need to go from deciliters. So someone give me like a random number again. 17. So say we need to go from 17 deciliters to kiloliters. All right, now what direction am I moving? To the left, because kilo is over here. We're going to the left 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So where's the decimal at right now? And then we're moving it to the left. Again, I forgot. I already lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Fill in the spots with zeros. Now that's 0.0017 kiloliters. Okay. Again, whether or not they actually throw something like that you need to convert on your test is debatable, but they assume that you know all these. So that's why I'm showing you them. Questions on this? Okay, so then I'm gonna put a Kahoot code up. So and again, you can late join, pin will be at the bottom. All right. So what type of triangle is represented? Scalene, equilateral, normal, or isosceles? All right, so let's see how many people got it. Not everyone. All right, 8 people. So let's take a little look. What's unique about isosceles triangles? Not necessarily. They have two sides that are equal. And how do you know that there's two sides equal on this picture? The little lines, the tick marks. When it's the same amount on a different side, so like this side has one and this side has one, that signals that they're the same length. So say that, I don't know, they tell you, I have an isosceles triangle that has one side is 3x, one side is 4, and its total perimeter is, I don't know, this might work out not an even number, but let's just do 40. All right, then you might know that perimeter is what measurement? Well, that is true, but like, where on the shape is the perimeter?
Oh, good. Downside of the-
So it is adding up all the sides. So even though you might know, like, okay, well, I would need to add up all the sides, but darn, what is this side? Well, if you know that like isosceles triangles have two sides that are equal and it's labeled like this, what must this side be? 3x, not the 4, because that one doesn't have like the same labeling as that one. Make sense? Okay. So that bottom side, maybe they might show it as having like 2 tick marks sometimes. That's still not equal to the other side. The other thing about isosceles triangles is since they have 2 sides that are equal, they have 2 angles that are equal. Okay. Questions on this one? And I would explain like the other answer options, but I have a feeling they're going to show up. So, we'll see if you notice them. And again, the first 3 on the leaderboard at the end will get a prize. So Brian is planting grass on his 7-foot by 8-foot lawn. How much grass will he need to cover his lawn? 5 square feet, 49 square feet, 6 feet, 56 square feet. Again, take notes as we go. This should be easy, fast. Just, it doesn't have like the fact that it's square feet, and it should be. So first, let me backtrack for a second. It doesn't specify what shape his lawn is, but what are we assuming it is? A rectangle, because it gives you 2 different, let's see, measurements. So odds are one of them is a length and one of them is a width, and most lawns are rectangular anyway. So we have that, and we want to know how much grass he needs to cover his lawn. So where would the grass go? Inside the shape. And when we measure like the amount of feet inside a shape, what are we finding? Length times width, or otherwise known as the area. And yes, for different shapes, there's different formulas for that. For rectangles, it is length times width. So length could be the 7, width could be the 8. Sorry, I also want to include the feet in here, so let me rewrite that. 7 feet times 8 feet. 7 times 8 is 56. And you're also multiplying the units together. You remember when we would do x times x, what would we get? X squared. Well, that's what's happening with the feet too. It's feet times feet, which is feet squared. Okay, that's why it happens. That's why when we do volume, which is 3 things being multiplied together, That's why it's feet cubed when it's like volume or something like that. Also note, the units would have to be the same before you multiply them together. So what if, like, instead of giving me 7 feet, let me actually do an easier number. What if instead of giving you both of them in feet, they just told you 60 inches and then 8 feet? What would you have to do? Convert the inches to feet or convert the feet to inches. But either way, you need to have them be the same unit before you like start doing stuff to them. Just FYI. So then like, that's why knowing those unit conversions would be good. So that way, if you need to know how many inches are in a yard or so forth, you can like just multiply or divide, whatever you need to do. Okay, next one. What angle is represented? Okay, great. So what's an easy way to remember our obtuse angles? Well, that is the definition of them. So you could say obtuse angles are greater than 90 degrees. But maybe you've heard this before, but like they also say like obtuse, like obese, like it's just a big angle. Okay, so that's another way to remember it. Questions on this one? All right. Side note, and this may come up later, but I'm still gonna point it out because it's important. Say that we have a straight line drawn, and then they ask what this missing angle is. What is it? 50 degrees. How do you know that? Okay. Hold on. Sorry. So straight lines have what measurement? 180 degrees. So if you don't know that, maybe write that down. So straight lines are what we call supplementary angles, are 180 degrees. So if I have a straight line and they give me part of it, I can just subtract what I was given and that'll give me what is missing. Okay, so I feel like that is something they would ask. And you could explain it using your vocab. Straight lines are supplementary angles. They're 180 degrees, da 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 da. All right, next one. I'm gonna have to freeze the screen for this one. So my bulletin board is 9 feet by 3 feet. How much border would I need to go around the entire board? Okay, so most got it wrong. If we are, well, first of all, it doesn't specify the shape of the bulletin board, but we are assuming that it's what shape? Because most of them are. And it gives you like 2 measurements. So that makes sense. Anyway, if we're figuring out how much border would need to go around, so not necessarily inside, then what measurement are we finding? The perimeter, good. And to find the perimeter of any shape, you would do what? You would add just the base and the height. You would add all the sides. All right, and that's true for any shape, no matter how weird the shape looks. So then would my answer be just the 9 plus 3? I have to do another 9 and another 3, because this side would be 9 then, this side would be 3. You could also do 2 times 9 plus 2 times 3, same difference. Add them all together, and that's how we get the 24 feet. Do I need to put feet squared? No, because if you remember when we did, like, combining like terms, when you just add or subtract, you don't change the variable part at all. So same with the units. When we're just adding or subtracting, you don't change the units at all. Good there? All right, and again, these are the types of questions that they will ask. Not necessarily, I mean, they do have like some quadratics on there, but not necessarily what we've been doing. It's like a level down. All right, so some movement there. What is shown below? Now I have to freeze it. So is it a line segment, line, angle, or ray? So this is a ray. So rays have an endpoint and they, on the other side, go on infinitely. What is a good way to remember this one? Anyone? A stingray has a tail that kind of looks like this. That has like a pointy end, and then of course the other end like ends, right? So stingrays is how I think about it. I could talk about the others, but I have a feeling they'll come up, so I'll just leave it at that. Remember, take notes as you go. Some of the notes are not very elaborate, so just make sure we're taking notes. All right, what is shown below? A line, line segment, angle, or ray. This is great preparation for your geometry class that you'll take next. What? Right, 7 seconds. No music on the side. Okay, good. So line segments end on both sides. Do you guys know, well, maybe I'll wait till the other one. Right, the next one. Line segment end, here's the picture. All right, what type of triangle is represented? Scalene, normal, isosceles, equilateral. Okay, so almost 100% got it right. What's unique about scalenes? By definition, yes. All the lengths are different. And how do you know they're all different in this picture? None of them have the same amount of tick marks on each side. So that is why. It's also, like right triangles could also have like all sides different, but how do you know that this one's not a right triangle? And how do they show a 90-degree angle? They have like a square to show that it's 90 degrees versus like the curve that they'll usually put for the units. Good. All right, next one. All right, what is shown below? A line, line segment, ray, or an angle? All right, good, 100%, although I feel like we're losing people. Remember, take notes as we go. I'll be checking that here shortly as we continue tonight. But now that we've like reviewed lines go on forever. One thing that they usually will put on tests, for example, one of the problems has like a bunch of symbols, and they just expect you to remember what part it would be talking about. So say the symbol that they use in the problem is something like this. Is that a line segment, or array? Okay, raise your hand if you think it's a line. Raise your hand if you think this would be for a line segment.
All right.
Raise your hand if you think for array. For just this right here. This would be a line segment. Because what's unique about normal lines? They go on infinitely. So if it was talking about line AB, it would have like the arrows on the ends. If it was array, then it would just have an arrow on one end. And it should match whatever side is the one that goes on infinitely. And that would be array. What would this symbol be talking about? Angle A, good. What about if they put 3 letters there? So like ABC. What angle is it talking about? Well, it could be a triangle, yeah. Or it could be like just anything that has at least 3 points. So say, here's my triangle to match this. And I want you to look at angle ABC. Well, which one is it talking about? Well, it's whatever's in the middle is the angle it wants you to look at. So the reason they give you the others is to orient yourself, because sometimes that actually matters. In this example, it doesn't, but that way you know what part of the angle it's talking about. So angle ABC is really just talking about angle B, but the other 2 parts tell you like where to look, like in case there's, I don't know, something coming out of it, and now we have like D over here. Now you know not to look over here. You're looking in here and all that stuff. So the symbols is what we're reviewing right now. What about this symbol? Oops, hold on, not that one. What's that symbol? Not parallel. Well, it has parts of it that you should recognize. It has an equal sign. Equal with a squiggly on top. It means congruent.
Yeah.
That's like saying angle A is congruent to angle B. Now solve for all this other stuff in that problem. All right, that means they're the same if they're congruent. What does it mean if it has this symbol in between, like a squiggly only? Does it mean that they're equal? It means that they're similar. All sorts of stuff. Okay, so yeah, just FYI, just some review on the symbols, because that did show up on at least one of the questions on your test now. Okay, next one. All right, which angle is represented? Acute, right, obtuse? All right, good, almost 100% correct. What is the definition of an acute angle? Just one. So smaller than 90 degrees, which this definitely is if it's 54. What else? What's a good way to remember this one?
Cute, it's cute. Goes like.
Yes, it's cute because it's a little angle. All right. All right, next one. What type of quadrilateral is represented? What do we know about quadrilaterals? Sorry, before you answer, I'm gonna add some more details. Yes, it is a rhombus. I had to add some tick marks because I think it does need a little bit. So rhombus, and I don't know if rhombi is the correct plural, but they have 4 equal sides. Why is it not a square though?
Has no 90 degrees.
Good, you guys are both right. Technically, the more proper reason is because it doesn't have 490 degrees. So yes. But yeah, so parallelograms are like rectangles. They would have 2 sides, like opposite sides same only. But rhombi have both things. Actually, let me say that again. So like if the problem said, listen, if it said this rhombus has a side length of 2x, what's the perimeter? Well, that would be really hard if I didn't know that rhombus have all sides the same, right? Rhombi, whatever it's called. What's the perimeter of this rhombus, guys?
8.
Yes, 8x. Because if that side's 2x and this is a rhombus, these must all be 2x. What if it wanted, well, actually, is the area still the same? Or, I don't know. I think rhombi is still length times width, but we'll just save that for another time. All right. Round 762 to the nearest 10. Some of you still get your rounding wrong on your test, so that's important. All right, where is the 10th place in this number? What number would it match up with? Okay, good. So wherever you need to round to, underline it and look directly to the right. What's the cutoff for rounding? So if it's 5 and above, give it a shove. 4 and below, I don't remember what the little rhyme is, but let it go. Okay. That's a good one.
Yes.
4 or below, let it go. So then just leave it alone. All right, so it would either be 770 or 760, but since that's a 2, it's 760. Good there? All right. What angle is represented? What angle is represented? Okay, good, 100%, doesn't sound like we really need to go. Okay, what type of lines are shown below? Okay, good. What's unique about parallel lines? Guys, what's unique about parallel lines? They never touch because, do you know why? Other than that, what's the same about them? It's because they have the same slope. I'll just tell you. Now you know. They have the same slope. That's why they never touch or intersect. Let's see. If they were showing you like the symbols again, it would be line AB is parallel like that, the two lines like that, to line CB. That's how they might say that without giving you a picture. Do you guys know the sign for perpendicular? If it was perpendicular, it would be like an upside down T. Just FYI, that's perpendicular. Do you guys know what's unique about perpendicular lines? They cross and create. They don't just cross, something else too. What kind of angle? A 90-degree angle, good. I feel like that's a good place to end it. I don't know how easy the next one is. There's a few people I still need to check, so let me check yours. The top 3 can get a prize.